One, making sure you can hear this, and two, we're going to get started if you want to continue. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? It's my honor to welcome you. I'm María Pabón López. I'm the Dean of the Loyola College of Law. I've been the Dean here for about a year and a half. Love the place, but I'm honored. This is one of the most exciting things that I've done in the year and a half that I've been Dean, to welcome you here. I used to teach immigration law, and I believe very much in making sure that our country does what it needs to do with regards to treating people well, immigrants in particular. As a former prosecutor, also, I like that idea of the criminal law world meeting up with the immigration world. And I also have studied the immigration law in other countries, like, for example, in Europe. And the idea that we detain people who come seeking freedom really is something that we have to overcome, coming to compliance with being human beings, right, and caring for each other. So the Loyola College of Law is honored to have you here. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to try and be in and out as much as I can. But this is just amazing. Your presence makes us a much better place. And this is a school that believes so much in social justice, right? Part of the Jesuit values, the Jesuit idea. And our valuable clinic, where we have here Professor Kusuda and Professor Quigley, and our esteemed alums, right? We have our graduate, Mr. Richard Leaf, who is our incoming bar president of Louisiana, and some of our other wonderful graduates. So we're just so happy to have you here and to talk about this really important topic. I remember reading those New York Times articles, right, about the immigrants being detained and dying in jail, and just being so moved. So I'm so glad that we can do something about this by starting this dialogue. And without further ado, I turn it over to Mr. Stahnke, who's the Director of Policy and Programs of Human Rights. Welcome, bienvenidos, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have a list of thank yous to go through. I'm Cat Stahnke, Human Rights First, based in Washington and New York. And first, let me say thank you very much to the law school, to Dean López. If I butcher these names, please pardon me. Hiroko Kusuda, Bill Quigley, Liz Dominguez, James Shields, and Michelle Davis, great team here at Loyola Law School. Thank you so much. Our local partners, including John Wool, who directs the New Orleans office of the Vera Institute, and Ken Mayo of LSU, yes, great, thank you so much. And all of our speakers who are here today. We have a great day and a great lineup of speakers, everyone who's come from wherever you've come, thank you. And especially to those of you who are based here working on immigration and detention issues and criminal justice issues in the region. It's an honor and a pleasure for us to be here to learn from you and to try to help support your work. Very briefly, if you don't know, Human Rights First, we are challenging the United States to be a global leader on human rights, both supporting human rights abroad and leadership in securing human rights at home. So we work on a whole range of issues, whether it's national security policy, preventing genocide and mass atrocities, supporting human rights defenders, but also encouraging the United States to be a leader in protecting refugees around the world and at home. We work in partnership with U.S. law firms in Washington and in New York to provide pro bono legal services to indigent asylum seekers and others who are in the immigration court system. We've been doing this for decades now with an extremely successful program. And not only do we help represent clients, but we also learn from that experience and try to use what we've learned to influence U.S. Asylum policy. So we work on a variety of issues there, including the issue of immigration detention, which we think is not only a serious problem in the United States, but also it's setting a bad example for the rest of the world. And our expertise in immigration detention comes from our work with clients, visiting detention centers. We provide legal orientation services in detention centers. We have most recently put out a report, which I see a stack. Is that those over there? Called Jails and Jumpsuits. It's an assessment of the U.S. immigration detention system with some real concrete recommendations for what should be done about it. Okay, so just a little bit about today, and then I'll be done. Today is one of a series of events that we've done around the country. We've done in Texas, in California, and in Arizona. We're having ours here today. And then in early 2013, we'll have a kind of a wrap-up event to bring the lessons that we've learned from going around the country, talking to people about the issues in their regions. We're going to bring that back to Washington, D.C. to talk to policymakers in early 2013, which may be, of course, a very interesting time to be talking about immigration-related issues, with the possibility of comprehensive immigration reform. The election seems to breathe life into that, and also a serious, I shouldn't say that when I'm talking about Washington, a look at budget austerity, right? And that's likely to be an issue as well. So what are we trying to do today? Today we're trying to convene stakeholders in the immigration, detention, and in the criminal justice fields to discuss issues that overlap. Although we understand that there's differences in the two systems, we believe that there are overlaps when it comes to policy, when it comes to the politics, when it comes to the populations who are impacted by both of these systems, and that there's a lot of knowledge and experience that can be shared. We're very much looking to learn from the experience of criminal justice and penal reform as to how that could influence changes in the immigration detention system. And while I'm sure there's a lot to talk about the enforcement aspect of the immigration system, how do people get into detention, we're really trying to focus on detention itself today. So the agenda is that we'll start the day with a brief overview of immigration detention in Louisiana from Professor Kasuda, who is the assistant clinical professor of the Immigration Law Clinic here at Loyola. And then after that, we have a panel of experts who will be looking at alternatives to detention and the new pretrial services program in New Orleans, followed by a panel discussion about civil detention conditions and what are the appropriate conditions to be holding this population under. And then we'll have a break for lunch. And then we'll come back, we'll have two more panel discussions, one on mandatory minimum sentencing and mandatory detention, and the other on access to legal counsel. So, a couple of housekeeping matters that everyone should know. We're videotaping the entire day, and we're hoping that we will, as we have with all of our other events, and we'll be using that video. This is a public forum, open. I don't know if we have any members of the media here today, but it is open, so everything is on the record, I guess you would say. We'll have a reception at the end of the day, so everyone is welcome to join us for that. And we invite everyone to be tweeting while you're paying attention. So I guess I can't ask people to turn their phones off, right? You can't do that nowadays. So leave your phones on and tweet during the day. Our hashtag is HRFDetention. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Kasuda. Thank you.
morning. My name is Hiroko Kusuda. Thank you so much for a kind introduction. I've been in New Orleans since 1985. I'm a transplant from a country called Japan. And I have become Loyola family in 2002 when I joined Catholic Legal Immigration Network and Jesuit Refugee Service in Loyola University Law School. It's a joint project to help detain immigrants in the state of Louisiana. My job's name was a detention attorney. And part of the reason that I joined this program was because in 1996, Congress passed a couple of draconian laws that tripled immigration detention population in the country. And I was one of the dozen detention attorneys dispatched all over the country to deal with that massive population. One of my main projects was to monitor detention condition and also represent them to the best of my ability. But at that time, there were 4,000 detainees scattered all over the country jails and the BOP prisons in the state, and I was the only nonprofit immigration lawyer in the whole state. So their minimum work necessary for legal representation wasn't sufficient because I was new to this job and I was very lonely, and I was driving a car in the middle of the night in a small parish road. As most New Orleanians know, country and also politically, and once you know, you pass the parish line, you know the difference. People eat different food, people speak different languages, different culture, and I was only visiting that beautiful part of the state, talking to the people, and I learned how to become more Louisianian than ever before. And I'm here today because I think the past experience as a detention attorney sustained me in a way that I think I have grown, and Loyola embraced me, and the immigration community, especially the nonprofit community, has grown, including my excellent colleague, Kim Mayo. She and I go all way back. Now we are one of the 3 nonprofit organizations that provide know your rights programs in the state. So I'm going to give you a brief background of how Louisiana detention situation at the average cost of $164 per day. ICE deports 400,000 people every year at the cost over $2.6 billion. And they are also asking an increase at the last budgetary round. Apparently, according to the ICE director, cost the ICE $2.6 billion. So they are using the maximum amount of dollars to deport these many people. Who are detained? Men, women, and children. To be more specific, children are now under the custody of Office of Refugee Resettlement within the Department of Human Services, since there is an outcry about immigration authority detaining children in a jail-like setting. So as a result, Department of Human and Health Services decided to take over the custody over minor children. And these people enter the U.S. without permission, enter with visa, but they overstayed. And they also include long-term permanent resident with conviction that make them detainable. And they are detained before, during, and after the court proceedings. Refugees, asylum seekers, and victims of human trafficking or serious crimes are also detained. There is no discretionary factor involved. So where are they held? There are 250 jails and jail-like facilities across the country. There are hodgepodge of different type of jails. ICE operated jails are called processing center. ICE contracted with private prison companies, one of which exists in Louisiana called GINA. LaSalle Parish Detention Center is operated by a company called GEO. And ICE contracted with local counties or sheriff's department The example is waterproof jail called Kansas Parish Detention Center. That's my students and I visit every month. And some ICE only, some commingled with correctional inmates. So some jails are holding both correctional and immigration detainees. That they are sometimes they commingled. So asylum seekers, unbelievably, they fled persecution back home. Some of them are tortured. They are fleeing because they wanted to have a safer environment so they can survive. However, once they arrive at the doorsteps, ICE hold them in a jail setting. And majority of 429,000 asylum seekers arrive every year to this country. Majority of them are initially detained until they're screened to see if they have credible fear of persecution. Also, arriving asylum seekers and many other immigrants are detained without access to individual court review of their detention. They are called arriving aliens. Under the immigration law, they are not eligible for bond. Only thing that it's available for them to get out of jail is called parole process. The ICE determines whether or not they should be paroled into the society. So, little known facts, immigrants, even if they're children, not among this population. These people in the audience, I'm pretty sure that you know, but immigrants are not entitled to appointed counsel because it's a civil proceeding. Even small children. I had a friend who also my former co-worker of clinic represented 18-month-old girl in San Pedro Detention Center in Los Angeles. She did not know how to form attorney-client relationship. It was very difficult for her to explain to the little girl that she will be deported back to Honduras. And she had a hard time doing it. Also, LSU, Loyola, Catholic Charities of Baton Rouge, we do a presentation to the detainees to the best of ability, as many sessions as possible. But the report shows that the highly regarded legal orientation presentations reach just 15% of the detained population, and 35% of detained immigrants in removal proceedings. For example, Catholic Charities of Baton Rouge, that program is funded by Executive Office for Immigration Review. It's called the Legal Orientation Program. They go to the jail every week, and that jail is the largest in the state. 1170 beds, and 200 which are reserved for women. LSU, Loyola, we can only make a monthly trip to the detention centers due to distance and unavailability of volunteers and community volunteers and interpreters and staff. Louisiana fact. Louisiana is the top receiving state of immigration detainees in the US. You know what this means? It's not in terms of the number, but people come here but never go back to their hometown. They come here to be deported. That's what it means. All of the immigrants are jailed in rural, central, and southwestern Louisiana, hours from 90% of the Louisiana immigration lawyers. About, anecdotally, about 80% of the detained immigrants are not represented in removal proceedings that takes place in Oakdale Immigration Court. So currently, the ICE tells us that about 2,000 people are detained in the state, which consists of 6% of the total number of ICE detention population nationwide. And Oakdale Immigration Court is known to be the most efficient immigration court in the nation. That translates to the highest number of removal orders being issued. There are 4 facilities in Louisiana that hold immigration detainees. One, I just mentioned before, covered by Catholic Charities of Baton Rouge. It's called LaSalle Parish Detention Facility, operated by GEO. It's about 1,100 beds. Initially, they told us the number was 1,170, and 200 beds reserved for women. South Louisiana Detention Center, covered by LSU Law Clinic, is run by LCS Correction Services, Inc., another private corporation. which holds about 350 ICE detainees. Federal Bureau of Prison also detains immigrants. And Federal Detention Center in Oakdale, they have about 800 beds, entirely immigration detention center, right next to minimum facility, correctional facility called FCI. Oakdale is not subject to ICE detention standards, therefore they don't accept community know your rights programs. So they are not talking to any community or nonprofit lawyers. The one parish jail is called Tensel Parish Detention Center. We don't pronounce S at the end. That house currently about 100, but the warden tells me as many immigration detainees as possible we want because they're the best. They're the quietest, very, very good listener. They comply with all the rules in the world. They don't complain about the food, nothing. So 100, but it could be up to 350. The waterproof jail actually houses correctional inmates also. They commingle. How about Orleans Parish Prison? ICE pulled out Orleans Parish Prison in April of 2012 following serious concerns over conditions expressed by the U.S. Department of Justice, as well as a federal class action lawsuit filed on behalf of OPP's inmates by the Southern Poverty Law Center. I think was well publicized in a local newspaper and in other parts of the country. So Loyola Law Clinics from Loyola, LSU Immigration Law Clinic, and Catholic Charities Baton Rouge are the only 3 nonprofits in a country, in a state that try to provide know your rights programs. Oakdale FDC is not covered, therefore there's 800 people, they don't have any access to legal information. So this is a policy that we have to adhere to if you want to be a nonprofit immigration bar member of the Louisiana state. Do not ride in the same car, do not stay in one place together for too long, avoid meeting at the public space, no regular meeting schedule. Our current membership is 5.5. So we do have a history with several jails at Loyola. I started Loyola, and my predecessor started a Know Your Rights program at Oakdale Federal Detention Center in 2000. We were pulled out of that facility in 2004. We moved the program to Orleans Parish Prison and Plaquemines Parish Jail. Katrina totally destroyed Plaquemines Jail, after which we moved the program to Tensel Parish Detention Center. That's what we are doing at the present time. So to give you a sense of distance, waterproof, for example, is about 4.5 hours from New Orleans. From Baton Rouge, about 2.5. From Jackson, Mississippi is about 2 hours at legal speed. So this is a map. New Orleans is number 1, and waterproof is number 2. And students and I do monthly visit. Takes about 13-hour trip. It's a 13-hour trip on Fridays. And we talk to the detainees about 4 hours, and drive, spend 8 hours in a car, and become very good friends. Immigration courts in Louisiana, New Orleans Immigration Court is only one judge. New Orleans Court doesn't handle any detainee cases because also it's in a wonderful, fashionable shopping center in downtown where Saks Fifth Avenue is. So you don't want to see any people in jumpsuits and shackled and handcuffed. The Oakdale has 3 judges. They're all detained cases. Gina was supposed to have 5 immigration courts. So they were saying, if we build them, immigration court will come. They never did come. But they're using those courts for LOP programs as well as televideo hearings. A common problem that we face on a regular basis, Tensel, for example, they don't have any bilingual staff. Gina, as I said, about 1,100 beds, there are only one bilingual caseworker. It takes 72 hours to get response for any request. Classification. At the booking, inmates are classified in 3 different classifications. Red is the most dangerous. Blue is minimum. So booking officers place detainee is in the wrong category or mistype. It takes a long time. Also, detainees are not informed of what they're taken to within the detention center even. If they change a cell or a dorm, therefore, detainees believe they're going to be released. So they release their property or get rid of their property to other inmates, giving up their calling cards, cell phone numbers, and lo and behold, they are not released. They are moving to a different parts of the jail. That happens at GINA more often than not. Married couple at GINA, in order for spouses to talk to each other, they have to have an A number of each other's and make a written request. The staff doesn't give a spouse, the other spouse's A number. A number means alien registration number. All the non-citizens in the system are controlled by A numbers. And they have to send letter to each other even though they're detained in the same jail. Law library is a constant battle for us too. Detainees don't have updated books, has a little access to it, and there's no screening process to give priority to people who have short deadlines. Medical issues also an issue. GINA is the only jail that has a fully staffed medical office. Tensol, the problem is, takes several months to see a specialist because they don't have any on-site medical facility, and they are not told why they were quarantined sometimes. And every time you go there, I see different medical staff. So there is no maintenance of medical case file. Detainees often complain about not having access to legal property documents. When we arrive, first thing we wanted to see is the legal documents. We need to see the charging documents to see what kind of charges are lodged against them. Majority of them don't have any paperwork at all. They are taken at the booking and hauled at the property building 3 miles down the road. It doesn't help them or doesn't help us. However, there's no streamlined process to give them access. Also, missing properly is another issue. Detainees are transferred frequently from one detention center to another. One of my past clients were transferred a dozen times throughout 5 states. They didn't have a single piece of paper when I met them at Women's Parish Prison. Tracking a person's property and legal documents a nightmare sometimes. Recommendations: use of alternative to detention. As I said before, detain somebody will cost $164 per day on average. Cost the taxpayer. If you use alternative to detention, cost the taxpayer will be reduced to between 30 cents to $14 per day. Another alternative will be to institute appointed counsel system in immigration court, which has been supposed to be happening somewhere in the wonderful parts of the country, hopefully. Repeal mandatory detention statutes that was passed by Congress in 1994 that tripled detention population in 1996. Also, we should restore immigration judges' authority over bond redetermination, which has been taken away by the Congress also in the same year. Lastly, but not most important thing, I think, if they're not going to use any of the above recommendations, we should at least try to force the Congress to pass the law to make ICE detention standards into enforceable law, so that detainees who are their conditions are violated can have a right of action. Thank you so much for your attention.